Hello friends, James Stevenson here with a global EV sales update. You may have heard that globally EV sales are on the decline and that nobody wants to buy EVs anymore. Is that true? Well, my co-host Loki and I will go through the research note published last week by Adam Jonas and friends and the other Jonas brothers at Morgan Stanley. So on May 6th, 2024, Adam Jonas CFA and team shared this note with their clients, and I was able to secure a copy for you, dear viewer, to see me react to in this video. Global EV Tracker Ping Pong Protectionism. I'm not going to read this entire note to you. It's a long note. Like the last half of the note is just like legalese and stuff, boring stuff. But there are charts in here and a few nice bullet points, such as this one: global BEV sales up 8% year over year in the month of March. A lot of these numbers, unfortunately, are only the month of March. I would definitely have preferred seeing year-to-date March numbers or year-to-date April numbers, or even like trailing 12-month numbers, trailing 12 months ended March versus the prior year or whatever. That would be a lot more indicative to me of the trend without seasonality impacting it, right? Because Q1 is a weak quarter. So if you compare it to the prior month or the prior quarter, a lot of times Q1 is a weak quarter for Tesla. All you have to do is go back and look at all the sales from prior years. If you just rack up the deliveries or the revenue, whatever volume metric you want to look at, Q1 is often a low quarter for Tesla just due to seasonality. But the top BEV OEMs globally are number one, Tesla. That's right, it's not BYD, not yet. Tesla sold 168,000 vehicles in the month of March, according to Morgan Stanley's estimates. BYD sold 154,000, and look how far behind the third place VW is. 55,000. Like, that is, by my math, less than a third of how many Tesla sold globally in that month, according to these estimates. Now, Tesla doesn't report these numbers, so they're not official. I wish Tesla would report numbers every month for every geography so that we would know how many of each model they sold, but they have refused to do that for a long time. We only get global numbers and we only get them once a quarter. Top global BEV models. You may recognize number one is the Tesla Model Y, but who's going to come in second place? You've probably read ahead to see that it's the Tesla Model 3, the number two selling EV model in the world. They're estimating 41,000 vehicles sold again in March of 2024, with the BYD Yuan Plus coming in third place at 29,000 vehicles sold. Ford gets their own paragraph here, but they're hardly worth it, right? Look at these numbers. Far, far lower than the ones we just saw from Tesla, BYD, and even VW. 8,000 is not a lot. GM continues to ramp its BEV sales, growing to 47,000 globally in March. Note, however, the Wuling Hongguang Mini BEV is sold in China and priced at $5,000 and is allocated to GM based on its China joint venture, which is SAIC. So does GM hire the people who make the Wuling Hongguang Mini BEV? Are they GM employees? No, they aren't. SAIC hires them. They're SAIC employees. That's the company that has to worry about the sourcing, the procurement, the logistics, the manufacturing, the sales. Everything is done by GM's joint venture partner, and GM gets credit for those sales on some reporting. Outside of GM's China JVs and the Wuling Hongguang Mini, GM sold 5,000 EVs in the US. So you can see how deceptive it is. You can bet if you see this number quoted by Tesla Q, they're going to pick the big number, not the small number, for how many GM sold. Tesla's share of the global BEV market in the month of March 2024 is 19% versus 21% share last month, and 18% share on a year-to-date basis. Loki, how did you get in my arms? I've told you no performing magic unless you're at Hogwarts. You silly dog. You silly dog. I'm trying to make a video here. Do you want to go back to your spot, please? Alright, we'll see if he goes back to his spot or not. But I'll pick up where I left off with Tesla's share of the global BEV market. I might have just said this. In the month of March 2024 is 19% versus 21%. But keep reading. Adam Jonas's team has put important notes in here. 18% share on a year-to-date basis. We also note that this market share, as Loki settles back down in bed over there, we also note that this market share includes a wide definition of BEVs, including large volumes of EV minicar BEVs with sub-100 mile ranges. Folks, if you think these are competition for Tesla, they are not. The people buying sub-100 mile range EVs are not in the same market that Tesla buyers are in, right? So to talk about the market share, including that market, these are folks who would otherwise have been buying mopeds, right? They're just getting a sub-100 mile range EV, like the Wuling Hongguang Mini BEV, which is a maximum 4-seater, teeny tiny car. It looks like a small golf cart. Maximum speed 62 miles per hour, range 70 miles on a good day. Charging time 3 hours, I think, something like that, at its maximum charge rate. These are not Tesla competitors, friends. And that's why Tesla's share is down some, because it's including these EV minicar BEVs in the denominator of the fraction. Tesla's share of the US BEV market in March 2024 was 47%, down from 59% share last year. We note the Motor Intelligence recorded Tesla's share of the US BEV market in April 2024 declined to 47% versus 61% last year. This is going to happen as more EVs are adopted in the US. Tesla's share of that total market is going to decline. This has always been part of Tesla's mission, which is not to sell as many Teslas as possible. It's to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy, which includes electric vehicles. Tesla wants more EVs to be sold, even though when more EVs are sold, Tesla's share of the EV market will decline. Tesla's share of the overall market will improve as they sell more of the vehicles being purchased in total, including combustion engine vehicles and mild hybrids and stuff. All right, what else do we have here? Geography. U.S. BEV sales are up 9% year over year to 93,000 in March versus 85,000 last year and 84,000 last month. U.S. EV penetration in March. I'm going to try to not do as many of these March-only numbers. They're not very meaningful. It's a very small sample size. There's not a lot you can do with it because so much depends on timing, logistics, ramping of the new Model 3, stuff like that. So maybe I'll skip the rest of this section and keep going until I get to the pretty charts. Key battery highlights. I'll let you read through this if you want. You can pause the video and read that. Here's the March 2024 versus March 2023 year-to-date chart crime. Why a chart crime? Well, you got this little tiny block over here, and then you got a block twice as high over here, and it says up 13%. Now, which one of those is true? Is it up 13%, or has it doubled? Well, the numbers will tell you which one is right. This one is right. What's wrong? Your eyes deceiving you by telling you this block is twice as high as this block. What happened? The scale on this chart, which is not labeled on the y-axis, begins at 1.5 million vehicles and only goes to 2.2 million vehicles, right? So this block isn't giving you 1.8 million vehicles here. It's giving you the difference between The 1.5 million here and the 1.873 here. Same thing over here. This is the distance from 1.5 million to 2.1 million. So Chart Crime City, USA, do not make your charts like this. If you're going to make a chart like that, at least have the decency to label your y-axis so people know that this isn't zero. Otherwise, they're going to assume that this is zero and be confused. Exhibit 2 over here, I don't even want to look at. The legend is crazy small and hard to read, so we'll just keep going past that one. Here's battery electric vehicle penetration in the US up from 6.2 to 6.5 in the month of March versus the prior year same month. Now, you don't have to worry about seasonality that much if you compare against the prior year same month, but weird stuff can happen from one month to the next. So this isn't great either. Again, Morgan Stanley analysts, if you're watching this video, do the trailing 12 months ended March, or do Q1 total, which would be year-to-date March, versus the prior year year-to-date March. A larger sample is going to inform your audience better than a more recent sample that's smaller, because a lot of stuff can impact a monthly number. All right, here's Exhibit 4, Top Global BEV OEM Market Share Regional Tracker. So what do we have here? Well, who are the top 3 players in the US? That's where our story begins. They're Tesla, Ford, and GM. So here's the US market, where you can see the year-to-date 2024. See, this is only the month of March 2023. That's only the month of March 2024. Here's the year-to-date 2024 number. About half the market belongs to Tesla. Everybody else is squabbling over the other half. And the number 2 and number 3 players have a single-digit share of the market. 7.9% and 6.4%. These are very low compared to how much Tesla has. Then in the European market, how are these 3 US OEMs performing? Well, Tesla has 17.5% of the European market. Ford has 1.3% and GM has 0.0% of the European market. Is anybody doing better than Tesla's 17.5% if I go down the rest of the list with European, Japanese, South Korean, and Chinese manufacturers? No, none of them are, with VW Group doing the best. They're in second place with 15.5%. And Stellantis, the company formerly known as Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, Jeep, Fiat, etc., at 13.8%. All right, so that's this one. Then for the China market, how is Tesla doing? They're at 11.7%, Ford at 0%, and GM at the very deceptive 9.4% on the strength of work they didn't do. Work done by SAIC, their joint venture partner, and they may have other joint venture partners, but they're producing those tiny micro cars with low top speeds and low ranges and long charging times that aren't even really competition for Tesla. Okay, how about in Europe? How are these companies doing in Europe? BMW Group has 4.5% of the market. VW has 5.4%. Sorry, this is the US market. 4.5% of the US market belongs to the European OEM BMW, 5.4% to VW, 4.8% to Mercedes-Benz Group, 0 for Stellantis. What? Oh, it's because it's just BEVs, right? So there aren't that many battery electric vehicles being produced by Dodge yet. So they get a big fat 0 for their US market. We've already seen what they do in Europe. How about in China? Are they outperforming Tesla? No, none of them are. 2.3% for BMW, 3.6% for VW, 0.6% for Mercedes-Benz, and 0.1% for Stellantis in China. All right, how are the Japanese automakers doing? Well, there's nothing to talk about here. In the US BEV market, 1.4% for Toyota, 2.1% for the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi Alliance, headquartered in Japan. How are they doing in Europe? Well, 7.9% to the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi Alliance, 2.4% for Toyota, 0.6% for Honda. All right, I don't even know what EVs Honda is selling in Europe. They're sure not selling them in the US, where they have zero. And the China market, Toyota has 1% of the market in China, and it's goose eggs for Mazda, Subaru, and nearly also for Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, and Honda. Japanese automakers are not well loved in China. All right, how about the South Korean automaker? I say that because there's one here. Hyundai, including Kia, has 9.8%, a very respectable share of the US BEV market, 7.3% in Europe, and 0.1% in China. I guess the Chinese are not big fans of South Korean automakers either. There may be some trade embargo stuff happening here too, where the Japanese and Korean imports are heavily taxed. I'm not that much of an expert on that topic, as you can tell. Then, how are the Chinese automakers doing? In the US, only one, Geely, has any kind of presence in the US under their Volvo brand, I think is what this is. Then in Europe, you got 4.5% for SAIC, 1% for Geely, 1.9% for BYD, which is pretty good for Chinese automakers in Europe, I guess. That's good enough for second place among Chinese automakers. But where they really kill it is in China. 24.3% of the Chinese market belongs to BYD, with healthy shares for Geely and GAC, GAC-Aion, and Chang'an, and the rest of the lineup. So you have the Xiaopeng here. Some people say XPeng. Xiaopeng, 1.8% of the Chinese market. All right, enough on that table. Here's the regional BEV sales distribution as a percent. It's March only, but here you go. About 10% of the world's EVs were sold in March of 2024, were sold in the US. More than half of the EVs sold globally in March were sold in China. Interesting. Select OEM BEV sales, Tesla down 19% year over year to 168,000 almost, versus 208 last March and 112,850 last month. Some weird stuff going on in Q1, which March was a part of, preventing those produced vehicles from all getting to their buyers by the end of March. BYD up 51%, respectively, to nearly as many as Tesla sold. I'm not going to go through the rest of those. You can pause and read them if you want. Here's Exhibit 6, year-to-date top 10 OEMs by global BEV sales. Number 1 is Tesla. Year-to-date March 2024, this is what I'm talking about, 387,000 Teslas delivered. BYD in second place with 330,000, so trailing by more than 50,000. And then a huge drop-off here before you get to VW with only 7% of the global share of BEV sales. And here's the same information on a pie chart for you. So you have it in tabular and graphic visualization formats. Same information. Well, not exactly the same information, is it? Yeah, this one is only March, and this is year-to-date March. So the number you see for Tesla here is 18%. It was 23% if you look at only this month, but you shouldn't do that for the reasons I've already articulated. In Exhibit 8 here, we see the top OEMs by global BEV sales, with the current year's number as a blue bar and the prior year's number as a gray bar. So you can see Tesla sales, even though they were down year over year, were still more than BYD's numbers, which were up by quite a lot. VW was also down, GM up, but from a pretty low number, Hyundai pretty flat at an even lower number, etc. The rest of the way down this list. Here's the Tesla monthly BEV sales. I'm not sure what you can take away from a chart like this. So there you go. Most of the time it's year-over-year growth, but not absolutely all the time. And when it's not down huge, I guess, is all that chart tells you. Exhibit 10 is Tesla BEV, monthly market share, US, Europe, China, and global. A huge market share percentage for Tesla in the US, and it hops around like crazy, I guess is what you see here. Is a lot of volatility up and down for market share, just depending on what the rest of the market was doing and how Tesla was prioritizing orders globally. Then it gets harder to read below that because there's a lot of noise here, with the global line being the dashed line, the European line in gold, the Chinese line in green. So there's that. Here's Exhibit 11, the top BEV models sold globally. Again, it's only for March. I wish it were year to date instead of March only. But you see Tesla Model Y in first place and Tesla Model 3 in second place, accounting for, 13% of the market for just Model Y, and another 5% for Tesla Model Y, with every other kind of BEV model coming in way below that, including that Wuling Hongguang Mini, priced at, $4,200. You could buy 10 of them for what one Model Y costs you in China, just about. Here's Exhibit 12. So just showing that same table, but in bar chart form. Here's the Exhibit 13 and 14. These are USA March and USA year-to-date. I guess I'll draw your attention over here then. Top 10 BEV models. Again, Model Y in first place, Model 3 in second place. And the bronze medalist here is the Ford Mustang Mach-E BEV, with less than 10,000 sold this year and in the prior year. The Rivian R1S right behind it. Then the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Hyundai Ioniq, the Tesla Model X making this list at 6,500 estimated vehicles sold. Tesla doesn't report that number. Even over the period of a quarter, they combine it with the Model S. VW ID4 selling even worse than the Model X is. That's not a put down to the Model X. It's an expensive vehicle, right? It shouldn't be on a top 10 list, but here it is. Cadillac Lyriq behind that, and the Chevy Bolt rounding out the list. The Bolt EUV. What do we have here? USA hybrid versus BEV penetration rates. So these are climbing with the blue line up into the teens and the green line below it. I don't guess they give us a legend for these, so we can just guess which one is hybrid and which one is BEV. Probably the higher of the two is hybrid. I don't know. It's very hard to read this. Exhibit 16, USA. All right, so you've got the top 20 hybrid models. If you care to read that table, you can pause and read through it. Here's the same info for Europe. So the Europe year-to-date 2024 table is here. The number one, the gold medalist is the Model Y. The silver medalist is the Model 3. It's the Audi Q4 e-tron, which I would not have guessed. Also on the podium, rounding out the podium with the bronze medal, at 15,000 units sold in Q1 of this year, followed by the Peugeot E208, the Volvo XC40, the Mulan BEV from MG, the Skoda Enyaq Q. I don't know if that's the way to say that. Maybe the Tesla Q members are the ones buying the Enyaq Q from Skoda in Germany, or wherever else the Tesla Q members reside in Europe. Volvo EX30, BMW i4, BMW iX1 BEV, I guess is what that says. And we got some more charts here. I'm going to ignore the one that's March only and just show you the one that's year-to-date, 2024. Tesla Model Y. It's a clean sweep for the Tesla Model Y. It is number one in the US and in Europe and in China. Model 3 isn't the silver medalist here. It is on the board, though. So after the Model Y, we see the BYD Seagull, the, I can't even read what this says, LCVS, the BYD Yuan Plus, the Wuling Hongguang Mini, that I've spent too much time talking about already, the BYD Dolphin, the Chang'an Lumen, A Tesla Model 3 in 8th place, followed by the Wuling Bingo. The Ion 5 and the Ion 5 Plus get combined together on this line because I guess those are similar enough vehicles to be considered the same model. I couldn't tell you anything about the Ion 5. All right, Exhibit 21, top 5 cell suppliers year-to-date by megawatt hours deployed. CATL here in first place, followed by LG, BYD, Panasonic, and SK On. All right. Megawatt hours deployed by month. So you can see cell supply continues to rise with this very sharp decline here in February, I guess, for some reason. And it's right back up again. Okay, what else do we have here? Top 5 cell suppliers, just as a chart instead of as a table. And year-to-date deployments by region, Asia-Pacific, no surprise, China is selling most of the world's BEVs, so that would be where most of the world's EV cells are going, followed by Europe, the Americas, and Africa and the Middle East in last place on this chart. With year-to-date regional deployment visualized on this pie chart, again, this looks very similar to the BEV sales pie chart we saw earlier with the same 55% over here, this time representing Asia-Pacific region deployment of battery cells as measured in megawatt hours. And then you've got it by region, so China, number 1, USA, number 2. UK, Germany, and France are not grouped together here, so if you were to group these together, they would be real close to what you see for the US, with those making, 10,500, almost 17,000 here between just these 3 countries, and there are more European countries that produce autos. Then we've got top 5 countries by megawatt hours deployed. China number 1, USA number 2, UK, Germany, and France trailing. And Exhibit 28 is giving us the March-only top 10 OEMs by megawatt hours deployed. Tesla is in first place, followed by BYD. How can that be true if BYD, or how can this be the disparity between these two? How can it be such a wide lead for Tesla? It's because Teslas have more range in them on average than BYDs do, is my first and only guess. Then Exhibit 30 here, percent of megawatt hours deployed by chemistry. So the NMCs are in blue here. LFPs, that's the iron based, and then you got the nickel based in green, and others are purple here. So there you go. What else do we have here? Oh, we got some more charts here. Don't go yet. We got more charts to go through. So we got a couple of S-curves here to look at, and these are Morgan Stanley's forecasts. Now, this is what Morgan Stanley, as led by Adam Jonas, believes the future holds for us. So you've got stacked bar charts here showing global EV forecasts with India here in blue, China here in this light blue. You gotta deal with a colorblind host trying to call out colors here. Europe in this, I don't know, orangey color. You got a light green here for USA, a dark green for Korea, which I guess must be this one. And then the purple one up top is the rest of the world, with the dashed line here being percent of sales penetration on your other axis over here. They have the S-curve rising to nearly 100% BEV by 2050, with 2040 being pretty close, 90%-ish, and leveling off. Morgan Stanley global EV penetration, you can see a little more clearly here, as they have left out 4 out of 5 years. They're only showing the years divisible by 5 on this chart. So they've got it at 40% EV sales in 2030. So feel free to disagree with Morgan Stanley's forecast. Here's the US BEV sales forecast with this S-curve going on here, starting to taper off. After 2040, I guess, they have slower growth to the historical total that we saw in like 2016, 2017, about 17 million vehicles sold in the US. I mean, depending on how well ride sharing works, the US may never get back past, 17 million vehicles sold per year. It may top out at a number below this if a lot of folks decide not to purchase their own vehicle. Then we have a very flat 2035 and forward forecast from Morgan Stanley Research here for European BEV sales. So they've got this S-curve accelerating up like a rocket that hits the ceiling and stops at 18 million with a thud and just stays exactly at 18 million every year thereafter. All right, fine. Something kind of similar happening in China, except with no S-curve. It is a linear acceleration to this mesa where it plateaus and stays just below 25 million vehicles sold per year, or BEVs sold in China. And you've got this chart showing BEV versus ICE. So the ICE is here in green. These internal combustion engine sales are actuals through 2023. And then from here on, they're a forecast from Morgan Stanley showing ICE will continue to drop off and then approach some low asymptote below 10 million vehicles sold per year that I guess they figure will always remain combustion engine vehicles. Maybe we'll see something like that happen. Then the blue line here is doing just the reverse, making this cursive X looking shape to the visualization here with BEVs climbing pretty linearly, really, from about 2027 through 2040, let's call it, and then tapering off, approaching this upper asymptote around maybe 110 million. And that's all the charts there are. That's all the interesting info. The rest of this PDF is a bunch of legalese and random information that you might want to pause and read through, in which case, fine, I'll let you pause and read through it all. But here's the rest of the stuff in their note. And that's it. So with that, I will check back in with time traveler Loki, who has curled up in bed, exhausted from performing all that magic you saw earlier in the video. And I'll remind you to like this video if you liked the video, and to make sure you are subscribed, and to thank my supporters, whether you're doing that on Patreon or on X or by joining my YouTube channel as my named executive producers, Kathy Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com did. And I'll see you in the next one.